Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Stramaglio Show. We're so honored to have you with us again. Our audience has been growing, so we thank you very much for your attention and support. And we are honored today to have Mr. John Kuchta. And those of you who remember John, he's been in the business for a while, and I'm going to let him give a little background about Nebraska and so on. But John, say hello to everybody, and if you would introduce yourself with your new job, your new title. What have you been up to?
Well, I've spent 55 years in this industry, and I love every minute of it. And I think the future is brighter today than it's ever been. I think the opportunities are greater than it's ever been. That's why I continue to work and enjoy the business. I owned a company for up until 2019 when I sold it to Brad Nepper at All Copy Products. I was going to stay on for a year or so. That was 6 years ago. Um, and now I'm buried in projects and doing all kinds of things corporately for Brad and his team, and it's been a great ride. It's been a great journey. And, and by the way, I've known you since the '70s, so we've got a long history of working in this industry together.
Can you believe that? The
I can,
70s.
yeah,
You were the first, I don't know if you recall this, but years ago at the NAMDA show, which I want to come back to, um, I had received the Canada Award from Frank Canada, and I think I might have been one of the first ones.
I think
And
you were the first executive of the year.
is that true?
I believe so.
I
Yes.
think you're right.
Yeah,
Anyway, that was a long time ago, and we're still here kicking.
that's right. That's right.
So, if you wouldn't mind, I remember you way back when you were in Lincoln and you had your own company and you were doing that quite a bit. Can you share with everyone how did you actually get involved with Lincoln Office Equipment? Was that an acquisition for you?
No, it was a family business. My father worked in the company, and myself. I was a minority owner at that time. Uh, he had a severe heart attack when I was 26 years old, and worked intermittently in the business until he passed away when I was 32 years old. I bought the business from the estate and have operated the business since that time, since 1983. So it's actually I have this business, the business that I owned. Um, Whatever success we had was a direct result of the National Office Machine Dealers Association and they used to have a financial seminar called Steer Your Business, and I went to that class because my father, who was the majority partner in the business, he had a heart attack. I was 26 years old. I didn't know what I didn't know, and fortunately, I went to that seminar, and a couple of the presenters, Paul Shields was one of them, and another gentleman by the name of that I can't recall now. But Paul was a presenter in that conference, and Paul took me under his wing, and he was one of my mentors since probably the late 1970s.
Wow, so that was before even CDA.
Yeah, well, it probably would have been right about the time that CDA got started. Correct.
Incredible. And for those of you in the audience who are too young to remember, NAMDA, National Office Machine Dealer Association, if I'm not mistaken, you were president twice, I think, for NAMDA.
Well, I was and I think I still am the youngest president that the association ever had. Now, National Office Machine Dealers (NAMDA) is now Business Technology Association. They changed their name in the sometime in the after 2000 to better represent the industry.
That's pretty amazing. You credit NAMDA for giving you the education and the infrastructure to do what you need to do.
Well, and it also allowed me to meet a whole host of people that could help me understand the industry and become a better person, better, more knowledgeable person in the industry. So yeah, that was the turning point. In my opinion, I learned what I didn't know about how to make money in this industry, and then I went on to make sure that I attended all their other conferences and went to the NAMBA show every year for many years. But I was president in 1983, and I think I'm the only person that was president of NAMDA and president of the Copier Dealer Association (CDA) to this day.
Can you believe how long NAMDA has been in existence now? BTA, almost 100 years.
I think it's 100 years next year.
Wow. So,
I
John,
haven't been here that long, but close
yeah,
to it.
no, we weren't here.
That's right.
So, when you say, I think you would agree, this industry's been amazingly generous in time, energy, mentorship, and actual charitable stuff too. But when you mentioned Paul Shields, Paul, I know very well from back in the day and knew him well. And Paul was a tough cookie, and you cite him as maybe your greatest mentor. So, what did he? How did he take you under his wing, and what? How did he help you?
He allowed me to call him and ask him questions and take after the conference, he would take time with me and help me through whatever the questions are that I might have, and of course he had tremendous knowledge about the industry, and he would have been older than my father was, and so, but he just gave me great tutelage, and I can't thank him enough. He's just one of many mentors. Mike, you were a mentor. Mike Reardon certainly was a mentor of mine. I was a client of Mike's for 30 years, and helped me tremendously grow my company and make a lot of money and be be a successful business person in this industry.
So, how long did you actually have ownership of LO,
I,
LOE,
I owned the whole I bought the entire company in 1983.
and you sold it in 19?
I sold it in 2019.
2019. Incredible. Incredible run. So at what point did you what was the motivation besides the obvious, I guess, which would be financial, but what was the motivation for you to realize this is the right time for you to sell?
Well, I was 70 years old. I didn't have any family that was going to take over the business. All of my management team had been with me for decades, and they were about the same age as I was. They were ready to retire or had retired, and so I needed a plan to continue this business for my employees. And so that was my primary motivation. Of course, my wife was very motivational as well. She told me, "Don't you dare leave me that business for me to take care of if something were to happen to you." And so I said, "Well, that's encouraging."
That sounds like an incentive speech I would have gotten from
Yeah.
some angle.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. So she had great influence over me, and so I want to work on doing that. Speaking of Mike Reardon, Brad Nepper and I were in the same best practices group that with a number of Mike Reardon clients were involved in, and so we knew each other intimately in terms of finances and capabilities. We shared commonality in terms of the product lines that we represented. I'm a Konica dealer. He was a Konica dealer. He was a Canon dealer. I was a Canon dealer. So there was a lot of symmetry that existed between the two companies, and geographically we're close. And anybody that knows Brad Nepper knows that if something's for sale, he's going to buy it somehow, some way.
Some way. Well, did you see the interview I did with Brad?
I did, yes, yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought it was terrific. I thought it was terrific.
So I'd like to go back to something you said right at the beginning when we introduced you. I introduced you, and you were talking about your excitement for the industry and all the things that you see coming down the pike. And you've been in the business for a long time, so you've seen some pretty exciting things. When from color to fax to digital to NIC cards to so when you look at all that you've lived through and participated in, how do you feel relative to the excitement of that to the excitement of the new?
I think that what's on the horizon is a tenfold opportunity from anything that we've experienced or that our industry has experienced. I liken it to, you know, the iPhone revolution that occurred. Yeah, I mean it's revolutionary. This whole thing of quantum computing and AI is going to be the next great explosion of opportunity for our industry. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
I'm curious about your comments again about quantum computing. We had Sean Brem at the last ECS, event, and so what was your takeaway about that? I mean, Sean, I had everything all over the board. Number one, they thought he was brilliant. Number two, they thought that they were, everyone was impressed with what he was saying, and three, they probably didn't know what he was saying. So what was your takeaway about what Sean did, and how did it lead you to do more research since?
Well, what happened right afterwards is I thought it was a phenomenal opportunity for us to be exposed to technology. This whole thing of AI and quantum computing is what he was talking about. I immediately invested in his company. That's how impressed I was with with what he is doing. Um, he's currently been involved in this technology called graphene. I don't know if you followed that, but I am that technology is going to revolutionize computing in our industry, and it's gonna have a whole bunch of overlay into a whole bunch of other technologies. They're using graphene in cement now. It makes the cement harder. It makes the cement less porous to moisture. It dries 50% faster. I mean, and nobody knows what graphene is, but it's an atom layer, and it's being developed, and it can be grown. It's kind of like you could grow it like wheat fields and harvest it, and so it's going to be revolutionary. But what it's going to do for our industry is it's going to allow everything to become smarter, less expensive because it's going to require less power. It's going to change the way that we do business, in
Yeah,
my opinion.
all the points, and it certainly is going to accelerate the speed with which you can further develop because the energy drain is substantially less, or I should say, more powerful for usage. There's more power to use, so everything will get escalated like unbelievable.
Yeah, it's going to be phenomenal.
So, given that, and obviously you've had a hell of a journey, and it's been my pleasure, for the audience. I thank you for considering me a mentor, and it's certainly vice versa. You've been a dear friend, colleague, and partner, and probably one of a handful of people that actually said, "Mike, that was very stupid. Don't do that again." And that guidance, I think, especially when I was a younger Italian guy coming out of Chicago, that was important to me in my career, and helping me to find the right way, the right path, the right words, and the right attitude. So before I let that slip my mind, I want to make sure that I say thank you. And to go further, when you talk about the differences between when you had Lincoln Office Equipment and now you're moving into with All Copy, the younger people today that you're seeing come into All Copy, relative, if you were going to compare them to the younger people in your day, what's your takeaway on that? Are they easier to work with, harder to work with? What's your takeaway?
I think that they're easier to work with. They're eager. They want to be successful. They certainly have a lot more knowledge than we have because of what's available to them at their fingertips every day, via AI and Google and all the other technologies that are available. We forget how quickly that the industry has changed, or the way of life has changed. We used to use telephones and fax machines, and that was it. And that wasn't that many years ago.
No. Do you remember when you would get off an airplane at an airport and the pay phones were all there and everybody
Yeah,
ran to?
there was about 50 of them lined up in O'Hare Airport, and you'd get in one of them, and you'd use your card to make phone calls. That's how we did it. But it was also a great time because you could jump on an airplane with 2 minutes left before they disembark, and there was no problem.
Yeah, you could almost tell them, "Hey, can you wait here a minute? I got a call to make." So looking at again your career, you've had some very interesting people in your world. You mentioned Mike Reardon. What has Mike Reardon done for you?
You know, he and I would talk at least once a week for 30 years, and most of it was about how do we grow the business, how do we take care of our employees, and, and how do we become better people. And he just helped me immensely with developing strategies to do that for my business. And he continued, like he just called me right now. That's what's my phone ringing. He needs to talk to me about something evidently because, but
He keeps calling.
yeah, he keeps. I mean, I talk to him every week. So you know, he and I are very close, and we'll continue to be, you know, really great friends, just like you and I are. And you know, Bob Goldberg is another mentor of mine. Bob and I started at NAMDA together back in the '70s, and we've worked together on and off for the last 50 years. And there's those people, those relationships are so important to me.
Well, and I've watched you through the years, and I'm honored to be in your friend circle, and I know many of them. You know, Barry Simon and Berg and all those folks, and they're the best. I mean, they're top shelf, all of them. And when you look at those people, they all seem to have a common connection: people, faith, family, integrity, doing the right thing for the right reasons. They're all of the same cloth, cut from the same cloth. Is there any concern about losing any of that kind of aptitude or feeling going into the next year, next generation?
I don't think so. I hope not. Um, the you know my experience now. Brad Nepper still allows me to go to all this Copy Dealer Association meetings every year, and so we've got a whole new generation of owners, and they're all younger. Some of them are people that are second generation or third generation to the company, and some of them are just up and coming rising stars that have gained ownership or leadership in those businesses, and they all want to do the right thing. They all have great integrity, and so I'm really bullish on this industry.
You know, it's interesting. I went, thanks to you, I got invited to the CDA meeting, and I watched the panels, and by the way, which I appreciate. But I also got a chance to meet Jonathan Garlow, and I was and remain impressed. This is one of those young guys, or one young leader that I think can really make an improvement in what CDA does and how they do it.
I agree, and he actually is doing a great job. I mean, he's put together some great programs with great topics with great speakers. He's now starting his second year as president of CDA, and he's just doing a wonderful job. And he'd be a great example of somebody that is going to take this industry and move it ahead into the next 20 years as we see all this stuff unfold.
When I saw him at the Canada Gala, I had a nice conversation with him, and he's very impressive, very likable, but he's really impressive, smart young guy. And he and I were talking about the breakaway team, and because he wanted to join it, and of course we to, and yeah, he's awesome. So when I see and hear from young people like this, I have great optimism that our industry's in good hands. So, so when you're looking at some of the young people, that are now up and coming and next gen type people that are going to be taking over some of these dealerships, etc. What advice would you, as an elder statesman in our business, what are the top three things you would say to these guys? These are the things you must do.
Well, don't stop trying because you haven't failed until you stop trying. That's my favorite Albert Einstein quote. and it really is true. The other thing is you've got to take care of your people. I mean, they're the ones that interface with your customers. They're the ones that make you the money. So you've got to take really good care of your people. If you do that, you'll be wearing diamonds.
So again, you've been very active with us, and obviously within the industry. So, and I'm very happy to hear that you're bullish about the industry. What are your thoughts? You've been to every ECS that we've had. So, could you give the audience your summary of what you've seen since day one and where we are today?
Well, I mean, it continues to evolve and get better. And as technology changes, we've evolved and changed with that technology. And really, what's happened is that we're now leading with events that haven't happened yet. I remember 2 years ago we talked about AI before AI was even a thing, and then 6 weeks after ECS, it hit the Wall Street Journal and Chat GPT and Copilot and all those other flavors of AI started to come out of the woodwork. And I mean, the same thing with quantum computing. It wasn't a thing, and last year at ECS we had exposure to quantum computing and all the potential that offers our industry.
So let's go back to AI a little bit, and I'm glad you remembered that because we did have a guy from Microsoft and actually Intel. And I remember we helped them bring exposure for AI in the channel. And I'll never forget after they spoke, a couple of the guys came up to me, our friends said, why are you talking about artificial intelligence? What does this have to do with us? And then, like you said, 6 weeks later, it was all over the place. I think that was a pivotal moment for ECS because, when we had Sean, no one asked me why we had Sean. They were like, okay, something's going on here. But when you look at ECS and again in particular AI, a lot of controversy around, is this good or is this bad? Do young people like it? Are young people afraid of it? So you've been a student of it. What's your take on it?
I think people are going to continue to use it. In fact, we have a chart at our company right now where we post daily who's using it the most. So it's almost like a competition of who's using our AI technology the most. And I saw the leaderboard this morning. There was 7 or 8 names on the leaderboard, and it shows how much time they're using it. And so anyway, the goal is to expose it to folks, and they'll use it more. I have an analyst that offices in my office here in Lincoln, and he uh, he is using it to compose emails to customers, and the emails that he's composing are phenomenal. They're complete. They're comprehensive. There's no gaps. I mean, it does a much better job than we can do as humans in terms of making sure that all the data is in there so that people can understand the message. It's
So
phenomenal.
does all copy have a approved AI strategy, or is it just employee by employee?
We don't. I don't know if we have a policy. All copy products is big on let's just do it. And so everybody has access to Copilot because we're a Microsoft house, and that's what we use, and we use it every day. I did a little training with some salespeople a week or 10 days ago about using Copilot and exposing them to the capabilities that it offers. And I'm probably the wrong person to be doing that, but I use it, and it's a great tool. It's a great tool. And what's really fascinating to me is how the tool learns what you're trying to do, and then it asks you questions about what questions you might want to ask in addition to the questions that you asked to get a better, a more comprehensive response. I mean, it is phenomenal. And if you're not spending 5 or 10 minutes a day just playing around with it, you're missing a bet.
I wonder how many dealer principals or owners or presidents like you actually use it.
I don't know, but I use it, and it's a great tool. It's great. I mean, I
Um,
use it for all kinds of things other than business too.
oh yeah,
I
and
mean,
I'm
it's just
you know what? It's kind of it's act it's it kind of shocked me a little bit when it came back and it starts getting a fact pattern from you. Like if I'm researching something about quantum computing, and now there's like 4 or 5 weeks worth of going back and forth, and now you're right. Now it's prompting me.
it's really Google on steroids. I mean, it just it does everything that Google doesn't do, but it does do the stuff Google does do.
So as we're coming around the corner here, I have a couple of questions, and I'm kind of curious. You don't have to answer it, and this might be a little bit of a surprise, but you just mentioned that you lost your father when you were how old? 30?
32. Yes. I worked with him since 1970.
Since
So
1970.
he passed away in 1982. So I worked with him for 12 years.
So what if you don't mind my asking? You lost your father early. That's horrible. For many people, obviously losing their dads early has a lifelong, lasting impact on your life. When you worked with your dad, what were some of the things that you remember today? What values, core values, did he leave you with?
Probably the most striking, not the most striking, that's the wrong word. The most important value that he instilled in me is you've got to take care of your customer. That was that, and I had tremendous involvement in taking care of my customer, and for people that in our company that either couldn't or wouldn't take care of our customer, that was probably a problem that they'd be talking to me about.
They
Um,
didn't last long.
well, if they didn't correct, it didn't last long. I just think that's word of mouth is important. I'm in a small market. I had offices in Lincoln and Omaha, Nebraska, which are mid-market companies or cities, and word gets around. If you don't take care of your customer, word gets around. So I always that was probably the biggest thing that he instilled in me was taking care of my customer.
Customer
And
and
that's really what I do today with All Copy is I'm working with everybody on the All Copy team to make sure that we are responsive and that we take care of our customer.
So again, more about the inner workings of John Kuchta. So when you look at your 50-year career or thereabouts, and I would drive this question more towards the professional side of your life. But when you think of the one or two things that makes you really proud of what you've achieved or your team achieved, what would that be? What would they be?
Well, I'm probably most proud of my family. Um, I'm most proud of keeping the straight and narrow, of being a good business person, being honest and ethical, and being rewarded with the ability to sell my business and continue to work in this industry. I'm the luckiest guy that I know, um, because I was able to make a lot of money for a long period of time in this industry, and then sell the business and have the employees that were working in the business at the end continue to work for All Copy Products. One of the things about Brad Nepper is that when he buys a business like mine, uh, no one gets fired. I mean, he brought everybody over. They had the same compensation levels that they left my company with. I mean, he does it the right way.
Well, he does, and clearly, you've been with him 6 years after the acquisition, so that's a pretty darn good testimony to both of you. So, um, as we leave, there's so many questions I would like to ask you, but I know we're on a hard stop. But when you look at the industry going forward, and I'm very focused on, the things I'm focused on, right? Helping veterans, helping young people to float all boats and do the right things for the industry. You know what? What do you think when you look at the float all boats mentality, and what is All Copy doing finally to help veterans?
We employ a lot of veterans. We are working to employ more veterans. We find them to be tremendous employees for us, um, and uh, and so that's a given. I mean, that's just part of our DNA.
And the float all boats mentality, you've been a big advocate for it, and you've been a huge advocate for veterans. And I should tell everyone in the audience, ever since we started the Patriot Pack ride, you have never missed being a part of that. And that's out of the goodness of your heart and a tremendous demonstration of support for the pack and for all the things that we do for Jillian back in the day, and then of course for the veterans today.
You got to give back. I mean, that's part of the rule.
So the biggest and most final question: what's your favorite Frank Sinatra song?
My way. Well, let me think about that a little longer. My way.
Yeah, you like it twice. So, as we leave, I do want to make sure that everyone in the audience understands and appreciates the wonderful career you've had. From Lincoln to now All Copy, you have been absolutely one of the most high integrity individuals, one of the smartest, brightest, most respectful in the industry. You've been the hardest working. You've had fairness, I think, stamped all over your forehead in dealing with even difficult situations when you're dealing with an OEM or an upset client or whatever it might be. You are rock solid. So, and I can remember a time when I was running in Minolta, and you and I bumped heads a couple times, and here we are all these years later, and you're one of my dearest friends, and for that I thank you. And if you have any parting thought, now's the time to give it to the people in our industry.
It is my pleasure to do this today, Mike, and I think the best years of this industry are still ahead of us. And I'm looking forward to working in this industry as long as I'm able to. But I don't think we've seen anything like the changes we're going to see in the next 10 years.
Well, I share your sentiments, and I'm very grateful to have you on this podcast. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody, Happy New Year.